of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
But who are farmers to know what's best for them? The wheat farmers voted against a wheat program. The government passed it anyway. Now the price of bread goes up, the price of wheat to the farmer goes down.
The acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
That I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook.
Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world. And no one will keep that light from shining.
When you talk about a revolution, most people think violence. Without realizing that the real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to the Political Black Guy channel. I am Mo the Mayor. Before we get into it, ensure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get my numbers up. Thanks for the support. So recently, Jubilee just did a Amanda Seales versus 20 black conservatives. And honestly, let's just say it did not go well at all.
Quite honest, you're not talking to a Democrat, you're talking to a radical.
Okay, but
are you acting right now? Do you really believe this? You need to think about me as your mama. Do not talk to me in that fashion. So let's check that now. Wait, do not cut me off.
Yes, but can I finish one point that I wanted to say?
No, answer the question. I hope some of y'all are acting. I really do. Do not bring up Harriet Tubman's name in vain, baby. Please.
Let's say the Lord's name in vain.
Harriet
the
Tubman.
Lord.
Stop.
Let's talk about that.
Stop.
Let's do. By
I don't know if I'm gonna last.
We're selling our own people.
I don't know if I'm gonna last.
You probably won't last with me.
I won't because your ignorance is so overwhelming. You're coming to interrupt me again.
I haven't even said a word.
My time. Y'all just want to be seen. I don't need to be seen.
Let you speak, but let's not get the attitudes and stuff because you're my sister and I respect you. So
I don't have an attitude. I'm being direct to you, but you're literally speaking this, and you're not going to do that with me either.
Okay, live in America,
let me finish my point. Stop referring to me as you guys.
Okay, that's fine.
And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans. Nothing you say is actually the truth. Nothing. You're not even American. You're not even a Black American.
So yeah, man, that seemed like a lot, especially when I cut it up and edited that way. And I already know how the optics look. She just seems like this screaming black woman who got emotional and couldn't control her anger. It didn't really want to have a dialogue with people on the opposite side. But you really got to understand, man, these people are not black Republicans. I just feel like they're using the Republican Party as a vehicle to be a contrarian or go against the status quo because it seems cool to be on the opposite aisle. Candace Owens made it popular. Charleston White, you have Brandon Tate or whatever his name is, just trying to rage bait, and they really didn't give actual key points. So the first discussion was on reparations, and Amanda Seales did a great job basically explaining it and letting them know ways that can help get black people reparations for basically 400 years of slavery, of unpaid labor, and the transatlantic slave trade. So we're going to get into that.
By the way, I wouldn't know. I'm not a liberal. Carry on.
Well, it's the liberal position because conservatives believe in hard work. We believe in going to work and working for what you got, not asking for handouts from people who never had slaves. Some of the people that you're asking for money from never had slaves. And let's talk about the fact there were also black people that had slaves. So if you want to talk about that, how is that fair? If I'm a white person and my family fall on the side of the Union, Why should I have to pay for slaves when this whole country was never all racist? Some of the founding fathers were abolitionists, and they hated slavery, and they actually put things in the Declaration of Independence and things because they believed that there would be a future where there would be a black president one day, or that there would be people in leadership that were black. There was people in the North who helped with the Underground Railroad and fought with the Union. So why is that fair for people who never had slaves, who fought against slavery, to have to pay for people that had slaves?
Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a spoof, because how do people not really understand why Black Americans deserve reparations? And you see how in that video he rage baited with black people should just go out and work, and why are they asking for handouts? Like black people don't have jobs, or black people aren't actively pursuing employment. According to statistics of the Bureau of Labor, 58.4% of Black Americans are currently employed in America. 60% of white Americans are employed in America. So take that and understand that we make up 13% of the population, and we're neck and neck with white people with having employment. See, this is what I mean by they have these conservative talking points that they really don't understand. They're just spewing out this rhetoric that is not true at all. So as you can see here, based off the Bureau of Labor statistics, 58.4% of Black Americans aged 16 and older were employed. The employment population ratio for white Americans was 60%. And mind you, we're doing this with less access to resources that our white counterparts have. So we need to stop this rhetoric that Black Americans are not working when we actually are. And I'm honestly starting to believe that they don't really understand the purpose of reparations, because they like to spew this participation. Oh, my family didn't actively own slaves, or they didn't enslave Black Americans. They didn't participate in the transatlantic slave trade, and Africans sold us to white America. It's Africans' fault. But you got to understand that you benefited from the free labor that enslaved Black people helped build this country and economically allowed it to grow. Amanda Seals did a great job also speaking on how Japanese Americans were given $20,000 at the end of World War II for being placed into internment camps, and also how Native Americans were given over billions of dollars in access to land for their oppression. And over in Germany, how Jews who were put into concentration camps and who were basically the whole genocide over there that took place, the stealing of their wealth happened, and they were given billions of dollars. And I guarantee you not every German participated in that, but they benefited from the rhetoric that was spewed from Adolf Hitler. And not every American probably let me take that back, because they probably definitely did participate, especially after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There's probably a lot of lynching going on for the Asian community back then. So
in January 1865, a meeting in Savannah, Georgia, between Union military leader General William Tecumseh Sherman and a group of 20 black ministers resulted in a plan to redistribute confiscated and abandoned Confederate land from South Carolina to Florida. They called the land Sherman's Reserve. Newly freed slaves would be allocated 40 acres of land along with a mule. The phrase, which became well known even then, spread quickly. The plan had the potential to revolutionize race relations in the South and the economic future of the African American community.
The significance about formerly enslaved being given the land that they had actually worked was that they would be able to generate wealth as well as create wealth generationally.
So the next topic Amanda Seals presented was black on black crime is a result from underfunding and overpolicing. I agree with her on underfunding, but the overpolicing part I don't agree with because I don't think police do anything at all. But I'm not going to get into that topic. You can come back to my YouTube channel where I talk about junk science.
My next claim is that black on black crime is a result of underinvestment and over-policing.
So you say that black on black crime is due to underfunding and over-policing, essentially.
Yes.
I actually don't necessarily disagree with one of those. Okay. I think that, however, the government, who do you think should be responsible for the funding piece of the black community? Should that be something that the government should step into, or should that be something that we as black people need to handle ourselves? Dr. Jordan Peterson and even Thomas Sowell and several others have stated one thing, that poverty and crime, there's a positive correlation. There's also a positive correlation in the black community of absentee fatherism being one of the root causes leading into criminality. Black males that grew up without a father are 10 times more likely to engage in criminal activity. And so I think one of the...
Can I put a pin right there and ask you a question?
Ask me whatever you like.
What is the root cause of there being less fathers present?
Bad decision making on the part of the fathers.
So black conservatives love this theory from Thomas Sowell speaking on the absentee fathers in black families. And that's all it is a theory. And I can't agree with this theory because there's so many variables that come into play when it comes to absentee fathers. Yes, I agree. A father is a great thing, and it can guide the youth. But you got to also understand other factors come into play, especially when it comes to whether this child grew up in poverty, low income, his surroundings, is his neighborhood filled with violent crimes, gangs. And if you were to take another black child on the opposite side of that coin, whose mother is making maybe $60,000 to $100,000 a year, and she lives in middle class or upper middle class, and his environment and school has more opportunities that come to him. So these variables happen, and you have to have a certain sample size of black kids without a father, and you have to take it from low income areas and middle class areas and high middle class areas, and study them from that point and see how it comes out. But if you're just taking black children without a father from low income areas and studying them, then there's other factors that come into play. So that's why I can't agree with this Thomas Sowell theory.
Whole literature on all the bad things that happen to kids who are raised by single parents, whether they are black or white, American or British. The studies show the same things. One study said that fatherlessness has a bigger effect than even race and poverty.
So Amanda Seals gives her response. I understood what she was trying to say, but talking to some people is kind of like talking to a brick wall, and if you don't use certain words, it just won't land sometimes. So we're going to get into that.
So essentially, when we were living in our own communities, we were also policing our own communities. So we were not being used as statistics in the same way to determine how resources were provided to our own communities. When we were going to the government saying, hey, we deserve, because we are supposed to be separate but equal, we weren't saying, hey, we want to be with y'all. We were essentially saying, we want what you are stating we deserve. And that is what all of the efforts of the civil rights movement has been. It's literally just been to say, you said when we got out of the Civil War that we would be considered citizens, and all citizens should be getting equal access to these things. However, you are actively allowing the Klan to harm us. You are actively allowing...
Who's killed more black people, the Klan or us?
I would like to continue my statement. I let you speak uninterrupted.
You did.
When we talk about this concept of who is harming us, we are really making a false claim when it comes to black on black crime, as if there isn't white on white crime. There's also this unnecessary effort to try and pathologize black on black crime in a way that you don't try to pathologize white on white crime. There are white people killing each other every single day. Now, they may be on jet skis in the pictures after they shoot up their whole family, but nonetheless, there are white people killing each other every single day. Now, much of the reason why you may see more numbers in terms of black on black crime are for two reasons. One, the statistics be lying all the time.
So Amanda Seales came in hot there and was hitting on all cylinders when explaining how underinvestment leads to a high crime rate in the black community. But she ended up making a blunder because she put out that buzz phrase when the Klan came in and started killing blacks in our community. In true conservative fashion, he pounced on it and completely threw off course when he asked the question, who has killed more blacks, the Klan? And she went into it to explain proximity. So you have to understand proximity, because if you live in a black community or you frequent a black community, you're most likely to be killed by a black person. And the same if you're a white person who lives in a white community. And the FBI has put out the statistics that you are 25% likely to be killed by a family member, 50% likely to be killed by a friend or someone you know, like a significant other, and it's as low as 10% that you're going to be killed by a random person or a stranger. So saying that there's black on black crime is just not true. It's all based off proximity.
If we have more police interacting with people, having them on the streets, we can prevent crimes. We can prevent petty crimes from turning into something worse. But we also have to have an organized effort against gangs, just as in a previous generation we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
So yeah, now we get into the hot button issue. Systemic racism isn't a myth, it's our reality. Let's check it out.
Hello?
Hello, John.
John Samuel.
Hello, John Samuel. First name. All right.
Blame my parents.
Hi, parents.
I want to listen to you first. Why do you feel that? Why do you feel that way?
Oh, John went to debate training before he came here. Okay. Ultimately, I feel that way because it's simply just facts. It's in the books, and that's why there have been laws to challenge it. There have been innumerable instances where actual systems were created specifically for the impediment of Black people to advance. We have also seen innumerable instances where there were things created for Black people to advance, and they were taken back under the auspices of, we don't want them to advance. Ultimately, systemic racism exists in our institutions on a government level, in our institutions, whether it's prisons or schools, and it is undeniable because they are actively trying to reinstate it right now.
So John didn't really give Amanda much pushback on this topic. He kind of threw a little question out there asking her, can she give him an example of a law that is in place to oppress Black people, and she spoke on redlining. So redlining is basically discriminatory practices that banks use to deny mortgages to certain communities based off of an area. So they basically block it off with a red line and don't invest loans or give mortgages to these areas. Also, she could have spoke on gerrymandering, because gerrymandering is going on right now down in Texas. So basically what gerrymandering is the redistricting of a certain area so that the constituents leans in favor to one political party than the other. Also, if you think about when we first docked on Virginia in 1619 and was enslaved, and then we moved from there to Jim Crow, and after Jim Crow, we went through the Civil Rights Movement, and from the Civil Rights Movement, we became integration, and from integration, it started to go into the crime bills, the 1994 crime bills, and the war on drugs, even though we all know that the CIA pushed drugs into the black community. So these are systemic problems that we face as far as poor funding for education in certain communities of color.
Of the Texas House Democratic Caucus are now discussing when they will return to Texas. They left more than a week ago to block a vote on redistricting. Yesterday, the Texas Senate voted to pass GOP-favored congressional redistricting plans. A group of Democratic senators walked out of that vote in protest. CBS News political director Finn Gomez joins us now from D.C. to talk more about this. So, Finn, what happened with the Senate vote on the redistricting maps, and could that have an impact on the House?
Yeah, Vlad, the Texas State Senate passed this controversial congressional redistricting known as Senate Bill 4, despite 9 of the 11 Senate Democrats walking out in protest. The bill passed along party lines. The Senate-approved map is now on its way to the Texas House. However, as you know, Vlad, the House remains gridlocked as over 50 Texas Democrats continue to remain out of state, denying the quorum needed. Therefore, the battle isn't over. The map, which tilts in favor of Republicans, still requires the Texas House to approve it to take effect. So without that quorum, the Senate map cannot be enacted, Vlad.
As a Nashvilleian, she spoke on something that I had no idea was going on, and that is teachers are now allowed to carry guns in the classroom in Tennessee.
Back to your claim, you basically said something about Tennessee and how they said what exactly you said they are not in favor of what their people said, or?
Yeah, Tennessee has actively said, we're not really listening to our constituency. We're not even going to allow them in the gallery when we're voting on certain issues. So for instance, when it comes to guns in the classroom, the constituency very largely said, we do not want guns in the classroom. And they were like, well, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. We've also seen them actively silence members of the House of Representatives who are black and not silence someone who is doing the exact same action who is a white woman, Gloria. Shout out to the Justins.
You are right, actually, on this aspect.
Hey, so when you're right, you're right. 1,000 people protested at the Capitol because they wanted lawmakers to pass gun safety laws like extending background checks and red flag laws. But instead, lawmakers passed a bill expanding gun access, like allowing teachers to carry guns in the classroom. Whew. DEI, the biggest slap to white America next to Colin Kaepernick taking a knee at a football game. Let's get into it.
Systematic racism, right? Mm-hmm. I think most of us would agree that at the very least it has occurred in this country.
Okay.
Right? We've had slavery, we've had Jim Crow segregation, all these different things.
Yeah.
I think my argument would be that right now in modern America, I don't think, at the very least, it's not as prevalent as it has been to where it could stop us from being successful. Okay. I would say that it's not a thing anymore where it needs to be talked about so much and so much attention focused on it. I don't think that currently there is systematic racism in a way that it's going to be harmful to us, like I said, to stop us. If anything, really, I think institutions such as things with DEI.
What do you think DEI is?
I think that it's in a way it's racism against other races outside of blacks. And so
where did you get that concept of it from?
I've researched a lot of things. I looked at different clips from both sides of the argument, things like that. But basically my point is I think that as far as systematic racism, I think that there's evidence from the other side in that there's different things that are pushing black people up in ways that are not fair and different things like that. Because I think that we should be merit-based. I think that should always be merit-based. And where we're in, when there's jobs and the different things like that, race should not be something that's considered.
See, this is why I say they are not black conservatives. Because Buddy didn't even really know what DEI meant, let alone stood for. He just heard a Republican talking point and he just wanted to blurt it out just to get some clicks. But we also have to get past this misconception that DEI means that just because you're of a certain background, gender, or ethnicity that you're going to get the job or you're going to be accepted to this university. It's not like that at all. You have to think about it in this context. If I have a 1550 SAT score and the next guy has a 1550 SAT score, but he is white and he's from the suburbs in Connecticut, and I am black and I am from the urban city in Chicago, I might get able to be accepted to this job or this university before him, because diversity is important, because it breeds innovation and creativity whenever you get into these spaces. If you're collecting a certain amount of people from a certain area, certain demographic, certain background, certain ethnicity, and they all think the same, you're not going to have a creative space, or you're not going to have a discussion on a topic or coming up with different ways to solve a solution to a problem. That's why diversity is important, because it breeds competition. And they love to give this point about, oh, you see how we gave this black American the opportunity to go to this college and he didn't pan out. It's not because, most of the time it's not because of academics. It's mostly financial, or he has family problems at home, or he just never left his area and he gets homesick. So we have to stop just coming up with these random thoughts in our head just because you didn't get accepted. And equity is basically just allowing people the same equal opportunities to grow and expand in a space. Inclusion is just making sure that nobody is left behind. It's just that simple. But they like to make it seem like black people are getting a handout and not actually working hard for it, and that's not the case at all.
The first step for the Little Rock Nine came in May 1954, when the U.S. Supreme Court issued its opinion in the landmark case Brown versus the Topeka, Kansas Board of Education. Separate but equal was inherently unequal, and integration was now the law of the land. In 1957, this decision and the power of the federal government were tested in Little Rock, Arkansas.
We didn't, at the moment we were selected, have any idea it was going to be as difficult as it turned out to be.
In the face of protests at Central High School, the governor of Arkansas, Orville Faubus, calls out the National Guard. His official reasoning is to preserve the peace and prevent violence.
It clearly wasn't to protect us. It was to make a symbolic stand. It was to protect the way of life in the South, because they barred our entrance.
So I really couldn't grasp the concept of her next topic, which was black conservatives fail to address the issues of the working class. I really couldn't understand what point she was trying to make, but eventually I kind of caught on. At first I was thinking about it in the aspect of capitalism versus socialism. So outside of that, let's get into it.
Same thing in
But
Nigeria.
Nigeria is a broken society, whereas Burkina Faso is not. Burkina Faso is not.
That's time.
My final claim is black conservatism fails to meet the needs of the working class. Ant Dog, okay, talk to me.
So I think black conservatives, we're the ones who really want the best for working people.
Oh.
I think we're the ones, like a lot of the liberals, a lot of the leftists, they want us to do things like office work. They want us to go reparations, try to get things from the government and get handouts. We say, hey, go out there and work. Go out there and get these jobs that are available. Work with your hands, do skilled trades. That's where a lot of us talk about, skilled trades. So working class, that's really a black conservative thing, in my humble opinion.
I would beg to disagree. I I think that that would be true if Black conservatism also created pathways for people to get those jobs and also to be able to challenge the corporations that are using their labor, that are stealing from them and not impeding them from having a union. So for instance, like in the South, right? I just left North Carolina where I met with the USSW, the Union of Southern Service Workers. This is an unofficial union of individuals who work at places like Waffle House, at Food Lion, etc. And their unofficial union is unofficial because the conservatives in that state will not allow for them to be officialized.
Legitimized.
Legitimized.
There you go. I got you.
It will not allow for them to be legitimized because then they would be able to push back legitimately on the corporations to get fair wages, right? So like someone was telling me in this organization that she was in Baltimore getting $15.25 as a minimum wage. And then when she moved just one state away, she was now only getting $7.25 for minimum wage, but the cost of living was the same for her. So when we talk about, you know, the effort of saying go out and get these jobs and get these trades, et cetera, I think that that is valid, but I think that the impediments by leveling up corporations and by pouring into the effort of corporations to keep billionaires, as Black conservatives, you are actually cutting off the ability for those people to excel.
So I'm gonna try not to go down the rabbit hole on this. I'm gonna save it for another YouTube video. But my only point I want to make on this topic is I don't believe it's a Black conservative issue or a conservative or liberal issue at all. I think it's a capitalist versus socialist issue. And I want to get this point across first that I believe in a free and competitive market only if it's fair. And then I think the government should step in and regulate a lot of things, because there is one golden rule, and the golden rule is whoever controls the gold makes the rules. That's my only say so on this.
Tonight in San Jose, where the city is getting ready to clear out its largest homeless encampment.
A sweep of Columbus Park is set to take place tomorrow, part of San Jose's increasingly hard line when it comes to tackling homelessness.
Today, people in the South Bay were reacting to the city's aggressive approach. John Ramos explains.
Columbus Park has become the focal point of San Jose's battle over homeless encampments. The city says it's simply gotten too big, but some people here say it feels like that was the city's plan all along.
Time and time again, scientists have debunked the theory of eugenics. Eugenics is basically this belief that you can genetically improve the quality of a human population. It basically was Hitler's excuse for his genocide against the Jewish population over in Germany, and it has been debunked time and time again. So let's get into it.
Ben Carson said that slaves were immigrants.
Well, they were brought here to the United States, and many of them were slaves, and we know that to be a fact.
What is the difference between someone being an immigrant and being a stolen person?
I mean, I understand that many people were stolen here, but 90% of historians agree that slavery would have not been possible if Black slave owners within Africa didn't sell off their people. White people didn't show up and just start stealing people. They didn't do that. That's not how that worked.
They literally did that.
But they didn't. They worked with Black owners and the Arabs.
They literally did that.
It's funny,
and Arabs did that as well. And I think it's very important. And I think it's important to note that there is an oversimplification of history as well as of Black people in Africa. There's a failure to acknowledge that in Africa, Black people did not consider themselves Black people. That was a racial distinction that was solely created by white oppressors to legitimize slavery.
Arab oppressors, actually, because the Arabs did it in the 7th century. They were the first ones.
They did not name it under Blackness. They simply just decided we're going to go and have enslavers. This was a decision that was actualized and then tried to be pushed forward through eugenics. Literally, there was an executive order that was passed a few months months ago that said that Donald Trump wants to now control the museums because he wants to take back control of the narrative around race. And in one of these museums that they cited was that there was a display that speaks about race not as a biological thing, but as something that has just been created as a social construct. And he stated that that is an incorrect expression of race, that race is biological.
But it is biological. Like, let's look at our phenotypical traits, the nose differences, the hair texture. It's a biological thing.
Oh,
sure,
baby.
there's a social concept, but there's biological differences that exist.
You're very convicted in your lack of
different.
information around these things. Race and ethnicity are two different things, okay? Ethnicity is where you're from. Race is literally something that was created to put people into categories of caste, to put people into categories of oppression. Race is not something that you are. Race is something that was bestowed and put upon you.
That's racism, not race. Race is simply the aggregation.
No, race is literally something that was created and put upon you. And I want you to listen to me as somebody who has studied this, who has a master's in African American Studies from the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University. I want you to understand very clearly that race is not something that is biological.
Hey, and just like that, I want to thank you for sticking around and joining the Political Black Guy YouTube channel. Please show your support by commenting, subscribing, and sharing this video. Hope to see you back again for the next video. If you want to see something that you would like for me to talk about, please leave it in the comment below. Thank you. Peace.